Welcome back to the Beyond the Bucket Show. It is my honor to bring on NBA guard, Fresno State graduate, Tyler Johnson. Welcome.
What's good with you?
Oh, man, I just, same thing, just trying to figure this whole COVID thing out, but I just wanted to touch base with you and see how your family's been doing and what you guys been doing during the last 2 months.
Yeah, we were very fortunate to be able to get a gym actually to work out in. We rented a place and it had a little sports court in there, but it had a cover in it, so we were able to get some shots up and get some work in. That first month after everything hit, wasn't able to work out, no basketball.
Right.
So I was going a little stir crazy in the house, twiddling my thumbs, trying to see if, maybe this was just something that was going to put us out for a couple weeks or, but it's actually, obviously it's gone along a little bit longer than everybody thought it would.
Right.
So just trying to find some of the positives in it.
And we'll get to it in a little bit, but the Johnson family is really close. Did you guys become closer or after the 2 months were you kind of getting on each other's nerves?
I mean, it's a good mix.
Yeah.
It's a good mix. We are very close, but everybody's a little bit older now, doing their own thing, starting their own families. And,
Sure.
Anytime you're in somebody's space for, an extended period of time, you're bound to get on each other's nerves. So it was a good mix of both.
Definitely. And with a lot of time on your hands, you mentioned in our pre-call that you were, dabbling into some new hobbies and things like that. You want to share with the listeners?
Nah, I've just been doing a little bit of the stocks and trying to understand how everything works, especially during a crisis.
Right.
In crisis situations, usually there's a little bit more, there's a little more action because,
For sure.
things are shooting up and people are trying to recover. And so there's usually a lot of opportunities to get in on a company when it's down. And then, once everything starts to pick back up, you find yourself in a situation where you just made money off of the circumstance as
Right.
opposed to having, this profound knowledge about how the stock market works.
For sure.
And that's just me and my own personal thing. Obviously, I have a team who does my actual investing for me. If I left it up to myself, I would probably been broke already. So
Yeah.
I'm just dabbling in a little bit of just to understand education.
Yeah. No doubt. No, I think I mentioned to you earlier that, I started investing in the stock market in January and just kind of seeing after a long time of researching, where I would want to put some investment money and things like that. And it's just real interesting, for people that may not, know that walk of life. It's very interesting if you do have some capital that you want to put away, if it's just sitting in a bank account. And that was, some of the advice that some of my mentors gave me. If it's just sitting in a bank account earning, 1% interest, it's really not doing you any good. And if you have the savings and don't need to use that money, then putting in the stock market would be a good idea for somebody like myself. And obviously you've been doing your research too. So I think that's all good stuff. But let's talk a little bit about the NBA. The NBA right now is shut down until further notice. Do you think it's going to come back this spring or summer?
Yeah, I think there's actually been talks about July, aiming for a July return.
Right.
Who knows? Obviously, I'm sure they thought before that it was going to be June, and before that maybe May. So, I think having being optimistic and at least having a goal for the league to get back, it helps. It helps the league. I think it helps the fans. Keep that hope alive.
Right.
But it also helps the motivation of the players. Of hey, at any moment they could say we're getting things back going, and you don't want to be caught with your pants down and like you just haven't been doing anything, and then all of a sudden you have an opportunity because they're gonna try, however it's cut, they're gonna try and finish out with a playoff
Right.
and championship. So if that's the case, it's purely wide open. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If you put yourself in position to be a part of that field, then it's going to be purely wide open. I think all the momentum of the season is done. So it's going to be purely who was able to to keep their mind sharp and their body sharp during this time,
Right.
which has not been really, I'm sure it hasn't been easy for most people.
Yeah, I was gonna say, it's been a new thing for everybody during this whole time, but specifically for the NBA, I got 2 points. One, when the NBA shut down, that's when everybody kind of was like, okay, we really gotta see what's going on, and so I think that was paramount. Just seeing how powerful the NBA is right now. When they shut down, everything else shut down. And then secondly, what have some of your friends been doing that play in the league, to try to stay sharp? Because, like you said, it's got to be really difficult for them to kind of fathom what's going on and try to be ready when it's very hard to stay motivated when you're doing the stuff at home or in isolation.
Yeah, there's a couple people, like I said, been fortunate enough to be in the gym. There's some people who haven't really found that access, regardless, or if whether that is because they maybe don't pursue it as hard, or maybe
Right,
just stipulations in certain areas are totally different. For
right,
example, California was pretty strict and locked up on how everything was going, and then you get to like where I was at. I was in Arizona and Phoenix,
yep,
and it's a little bit more lenient. It wasn't hit super hard by everything.
right,
um, so the ability to potentially get some things done was at a greater chance in Arizona than it was in Cali. So
for sure.
um, I think I know some guys who just they have their own gyms, they have their own hookups to where they can go and are staying in shape. And then I know some guys who haven't done anything.
Right. Yeah, I think the NBA is definitely going to have basically like another preseason in order for everybody to kind of feel right, and you don't want to rush back too much when you haven't been training, and now you go into a situation where there's only a few games left, and now you have to go into the playoffs and play against, the top players in the entire world, and just not be ready for that. So, yeah, man. But I want to talk a little bit about your journey to the NBA. You played 4 years at Fresno State, had a wonderful career there, one of their all-time leading scorers, done some really good things. And then you didn't just get right into the NBA. So tell me a little bit about your process on how long it took. What were you doing? You were in the D League at the time, just trying to make your way.
Yeah. I'd say college was pretty typical. I think I was a pretty good player. I don't
Yeah,
think I was exceptional by any means. I think that going into my junior year, I started to turn a corner just by saying, if I'm gonna go down, I'm gonna go down swinging, because
sure.
I never really came up with a backup plan of like, I'm gonna go into this field or go into that field. Basketball was what I've done my entire life and what I planned on doing
Sure.
as my career. But I wasn't actually putting in enough time to make that a reality. If you ask any college guy across the board, they're going to say that they're an NBA player, they're going to the
Right.
NBA. Part of that is confidence, and as you should have, but some of it is just flat out arrogance, because
Yeah.
you're not putting in enough work to even you know go that direction. Because one thing that somebody told me when I was on my way is there's only 500 players, and so whose job are you going to take?
Right.
You have grown men coming in, and they're lived a certain lifestyle and have made millions of dollars for what you can say. You trying to beat out a vet. He's made $1 million for 10 years, and you're trying to take food away from his family. You're
Yeah.
going to beat him out.
Right.
No, I mean, he's not just going to give it to you.
Right.
So what are you doing differently to put yourself in position to even make that happen? So what I did is I just kind of locked myself in the gym. um, I every night I was in there shooting 2, 3 in the morning. Anytime I could find pockets throughout the day to just pull out the shooting machine and just get up extra shots and work on my moves. And what fortunate it was actually something that benefited me for situations like this. The COVID was I ended up finding workouts I could do by myself.
Right.
I didn't need somebody in the gym rebounding for me, or need somebody in the gym working me out. I
Sure.
started to learn my own game and learn what helped my own game. And then, during situations like this, when I've gone through that all the way through college, it actually was very beneficial.
Right. And so, in your early time in the D League, now they call it the G League. What was it like? Were you in South Dakota? I believe, was it somewhere up there?
Yeah, I was in Sioux Falls, South Dakota.
Yeah.
Uh, it actually wasn't the greatest place to get, to be able to move around and do some of the things you wanted,
Hmm.
but it was probably the best place for me,
Yeah.
um, because there's not a lot of distractions. It's strictly hoop. I was
Right.
fortunate enough to be out there with Ashley and my son Damien,
Yep.
when we were fresh out of college. And so, I mean, all I lived in the gym again. And
Right.
you think it'd be easy in Sioux Falls, but it's not always the case. People want to find time to be able to move around and you know live, which I
Yeah.
totally understand.
I hear
Um,
you.
it's no better, no worse. But my thing is I had the ultimate goal of wanting to play in the NBA, and I felt like I was so close.
Yeah.
Being in that summer league, and then going to the G League, I just felt really close. And so, um, again, I just locked myself in the gym, and fortunately enough, um, when it was my time and I did get an opportunity, um, I wasn't guessing because I was putting in the time to have that confidence in my game. So then when my time did come, I wasn't hoping for something to happen. I
Right.
was uh, I was prepared to go take it.
And I remember, I don't know what summer it was, but it was during the AAU time. I don't even know if we were out in Vegas or not. But I remember watching the Orlando Summer League, and you made a big play. And was that the moment that you started to feel like, hey, I can play in this league? I think, did you hit a game winner, at the buzzer or something like that?
I did one of those times, yeah, but I think it even started before that. I remember the very first game we played the Celtics summer league team, and I didn't get to play. It was the very first game of the summer league, and I didn't get to play.
Yeah.
And I think it would have been very easy for me to go in the opposite direction, start calling people and being upset and frustrated I'm not playing. But I remember sitting in my hotel room, and I said, I'm gonna make them look dumb for not playing me.
Yeah.
I'm gonna try and flip it, and I'm gonna make it where they could never deny my talent.
Right.
And so I kind of just took it personal. I found kind of that game within, playing a game. And then I remember going out, we played the Nets, and I got a 5 minute stretch. And I don't know what happened. I just so locked in and it's so ready. I think I went like 6 for 6 in 5 minutes or something like that.
Yeah.
And it was, it was kind of surreal. It was definitely
Right.
surreal because it was one of those things where until you actually do it, you don't know you can do it.
Right.
And, but I did that, and then I just never looked back.
It's funny that you say that, is because all the people that I'm talking with, whether they be in business or in the hoop world, they all have that moment where it's almost like you've been watching the Jordan and the Bulls doc, where Jordan would start making up things about whatever it is to motivate him, and that was kind of what you did, was you motivated yourself. Hey, they don't believe in me, I'm going to show them. And I just think that's so profound. And a lot of people, when it comes to that moment, it's like, all right, you're going to go one way or the other. And you decided to go this way, and you excelled, and you were ready for that moment. But it took hours and hours, unseen hours of you putting it in the gym for that to actually come to fruition. And that's what people don't understand. I've been in the gym and seen you work. You're so meticulous with your workouts, and everything is so detailed. And people got to understand that there's a lot of hard work that goes into it. Like you said, you lock yourself in the gym, for hours, days, months, years to perfect that craft. So hats off to you for that. Um, Tell me a little bit about being with the Miami Heat. Miami Heat is an organization that's built on culture. You hear that in the industry a lot, that buzzword. But what did the culture at Miami Heat, with the Miami Heat, teach you?
Man, I was very fortunate actually to be with the Heat. Just being a young guy, Um, I think, like when you go back to the Jordan doc and he was talking about he came in the league and, there's people who are doing this and doing that and blah, 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 blah. When I came in the league, I was so wide eyed. I was so easily influenced because I was like, I didn't know. I didn't know what was appropriate. I never had somebody in the league telling me like beforehand, like, hey, this is kind of what it's like. I just came in and everything that came at me was the first time I'd ever experienced it or even heard about it. So
Wow.
like to be in a situation where I had good vets and guys who had just been in the finals and guys who were, it was a little bit of a weird situation coming off the post LeBron era. I remember
Right.
being on the summer league bus, hearing when he wasn't coming back, and just melancholy faces walking onto that bus.
Yeah.
Um, just, but the fact of the matter is that was an organization who had just been to the finals. What was it,
Four,
4 straight years?
4 straight years. Yeah.
So they understood what it took to win. And so for me to have any room to say anything there was none.
Right.
So my goal when I got in there, it was just to shut up, listen, absorb as much information as I can, and come to work and not feel like I was going to be the guy to let the team down. I think had I gone into a different situation, there's a lot of guys who go to organizations that are just not there yet, or they go into a situation where they're with a bunch of other young guys, so they're all influencing each other,
Yeah.
and it's easy to get off topic or to get confused on what direction you're going in as a player, um,
Right.
going in as a man, um, however you want to slice it. I'm having to answer to Dwayne Wade. I'm having to answer to Chris Bosh. I'm having
Yeah.
to answer to Pat Riley and Eric Spoelstra. I'm having to answer to those guys about what I'm doing in the gym and what I'm doing off the court.
Right.
Because if my off the court is affecting how I am in the gym, then they can't use me. They don't need me. You know what
Sure.
I mean? So I was fortunate enough to go to that situation. Um, D Wade sat right next to me to my right in the
Yeah.
locker room. So, I mean, I would watch how he would prepare for games. I would watch how he would warm, get himself going. I would watch, um, and then I got a front row seat to watch, to watch a guy who is a legend in our game do what he does. And so, if you say basketball is what you want to do and you're an avid fan and you love it, then if you're not getting better, it's obviously something that you're doing. So
Yeah.
I was just fortunate enough to have, good mentors. Udonis Haslam, another one, of guys when I first came in the league, that kind of took me under their wing and just showed me how to be a real professional.
Right. Now, did they reach out to you specifically and said, "Hey, young fella, come, this is how we do things," or did you try to just latch onto it, or were you just kind of observant and then, pick your spots? I know you formed a very close relationships with Dwayne Wade and some of these guys, but tell me what that was like for you.
It's funny. I actually asked them that question. I asked. I was flying with D and UD to All Star one year, and I asked the question. I said, "D, what did you even think of me when I first got in the league?"
Yeah.
And he was like, "To be honest," he was like, "I show everybody respect," which he does. He shows everybody respect, but at the same time, he said, "I didn't think you were going to be there that long, so it wasn't even worth me trying to get to know you."
Oh,
And
wow. How did you
and
feel when he said that?
I mean, it was real. I asked him a real question, so when I
Yeah.
get a real answer, I'm not. It didn't bother me.
Yeah.
It was it was humbling. It was like interesting to see how people actually thought of me, and versus how I thought they thought of me at the time.
Right,
Um,
because the thing is, we're always like the star of our own movie, right? And you think a certain thing, like you mentioned earlier, you thought you were ready to go to the league, and then you had one of your mentors tell you like, look, you got to take somebody's job, and then you get into the league and you're trying to figure it out, and D Wade gives you the honest truth. But I just love that because you kind of have to come back to reality every now and again, and it sounds like he was just 100 with you.
yeah, for sure. So seeking out advice was something I had to do, and I also had to earn respect because, again, those guys are coming off of finals, so um, they don't need to, they didn't need me or they didn't need to know me. You know what I mean? I was just I was a cog in the machine. And
Yeah.
um, so I really had to earn any respect that I was going to get from these guys. And then I remember coming back after my rookie year. I had a couple like good, really good games, but inconsistent. You know, I'd scored. I remember I had a week I scored 20. Then the next game I scored 2, and then the next game I scored like 26, and then the game after that I scored like 4, and then I couldn't get past 10 for like, a week, and then
Yeah.
so I was like very inconsistent. And then I came back the second year like super motivated to make a name for myself on the team and in the league. And then I had a really good first 30 games, and then I separated my shoulder,
Yeah.
and that was around the time Chris Bosh went down with his blood clots.
Right.
And so there was times when we didn't travel, or we were, both in the training room at the same time. And that's when my relationship with CB became what I feel like it is today, where he is one of my good friends, and he is somebody that if I have questions, or I just bounce ideas off of him. And he's always been there to listen and give, great advice.
Right.
Um, but I remember he said, I'm gonna make you my project. And I was like, what does that even mean? He's like, just meet me here before the game, hour before the game, when everybody goes out and's warming up. Meet me where the players lounge. And he had me watching film. And then all of a sudden it just became a habit. We would watch like half of a basketball game.
Yeah.
And then he started quizzing me on plays, like, what play did they just run? Why
Yeah.
did they run it? Who's in the game that would even have the personnel? Why they would run it against that?
Right.
And I'd never had that before. I just
Yeah.
played. I suited up. I went out there, and I just played hard. There was no like analytical side to going about basketball, and CB really introduced me to that side of it. And
Right.
so yeah, so then so I guess it's a mix of both. To get back to your original question,
Yeah.
there was some of me seeking out, the older guys, and wanting to understand them, how they did things, and then a good mix of them taking me under their wing.
Right. Well, I definitely want to get into the injuries, but before that, did that level of detail when you guys were injured help you to stick in the league? You know, because there's so many great players out there, and a lot of them maybe go into a bad situation where the ownership and the leadership within the organization isn't isn't able to help them like kind of Miami did for you. But what was it that made you stick? And the other thing is I've seen you work out and how meticulous you are. And now, like in your workouts, we were down in Irvine or LA, one of them, and you're just thinking about the process and every single rep, like you would go, I wouldn't say slow, but it was just more so detailed. Like if you were coming down, you were going over your heat offense, but it was like you want the ball exactly right here because that's where you're going to get it in your offense. Did that film study help you? And then what was the niche that really kept you to stick into the league?
Um, yeah, I mean, the film study it definitely started all this analytical thinking of how to approach the game of basketball. I think it's different when you're a role player in the NBA versus when you're a star and you're going to get, a bunch of shots during a game. It
Yeah,
wasn't until like my third year that I started getting like double digit shots in a game.
right.
Um, but one thing that I remember I was talking to Chris about was, he said, don't shoot a whole bunch of shots. Don't go into a workout and just shoot a whole bunch of shots. Just shoot the shots that you're gonna get, and then if you want, spend some extra time on something that you're not good at or that you're not working on. But you get a bunch of guys that like, hey, I'm not good at shooting threes, so I'm just gonna go shoot 200 threes. All right, then you get into a game and you shoot one, maybe two, maybe you don't shoot one. Maybe you're just
Right.
so messed up. I mean, you get into the game and you've worked on it, 300, 400 shots, whatever. And then you get into a game, you miss your first one, you like miss an open one or one
Yeah.
you should have made. And then all of a sudden it's like you just put the gun completely up. And
Right.
now you're not even doing the things that make you who you are as a player in the first place.
So playing to your strengths, basically.
do the thing, do what you do well and what your body naturally understands about the game of basketball as well as you can, and do it at nauseum. You know,
Right.
you have to be exceptional at those things. And then when you can start adding pieces to your game, do that. But
Right.
it's not you. Lots of times, it's happened to me, so I can say it. Uh, you know, we'll work on something and then we'll immediately try to implement it. And then if it doesn't go how we envisioned it going, it's like, all right, I'm gonna just kind of leave that alone. It's like, well, then why were we even putting our time and energy into it?
Right.
So, you know, for me, I started to understand, hey, Ty, you get to the basket really well and you're very good spot up shooting. But if we had to cut anything off the dribble behind the 3-point line, man, you struggle with. So if guys going under screens, you have struggle. You struggle, you know, stepping behind it and just shooting,
Right.
or you struggle going right, or you're struggling finishing with your left. I can identify those things. They're not bad. They're just they were my limitations at the time.
Right.
So then I say, okay, but what can I do? Man, I do really well in transition. I get going. I do really good with my spot ups, and when I get into the lane and I can shoot my floater. That I feel comfortable shooting that, or just trying to raise up and go dunk on somebody.
Right.
So then I just started to do those things at the highest level. But then I was like, okay, I want to be able to handle the rock better. So before every workout, we're just handling the rock, handling the rock, handling the rock. In the middle, a lot of our drills were handling the rock, but we're still doing the things that I'm good at. So we're
Right.
just incorporating things on top of the things I'm good at. And then once I start to feel comfortable with those and I get that muscle memory, I can start incorporating the different parts of my game.
Right. So you had this base skill set that was already pretty good, and then you just started stacking on top of that, stacking to your bag, basically, right?
For sure. For sure.
Tell me what it was like to battle some injuries. 82 games a year, a lot of different things. You had some shoulder injuries, you had a wrist injury, and I'm sure you had many more that were undocumented. But tell me what that's like on your body.
You know, I might be a little bit of a sado because I love pain for some reason, but I think it's more the mental wear, because when you're in the league, if you're not playing, somebody else is.
Yeah.
So I mean, it goes across time in sports in general. Drew Bledsoe gets hurt, and who comes out? Tom Brady.
Yeah.
It's just consistent throughout time. Danny Granger was the staple of Indiana for years, and he goes down with a couple injuries. And a guy who was playing 5 minutes a game his rookie year all of a sudden emerges into Paul George.
Crazy.
Just from getting the reps and being out there so I think mentally it kind of takes a toll on you because you don't want somebody else to take your minutes. You don't want somebody else to take a lot of the things that you've worked so hard to get.
Right.
And basketball is just so cut and dry. Whoever's producing can be out there, and whoever's not is not.
Cold game for sure. Tell me about some of the behind the scenes stuff that people wouldn't know necessarily about the NBA. Any misconceptions that people may have that aren't really close to it.
I don't know. I just consider the entirety as a whole. If you're not in the locker room, you really just sometimes, or you have somebody just leaking information.
Mhm.
It's very hard to understand what actually goes on in an NBA locker room.
Right.
Because I thought I understood, and then I get in there and I was like, totally different.
Right.
And so it's weird when you hear a lot of things in the press about your team, and you're like, we're all sitting right there, and it's just it's completely not true.
Right.
And then you get people who kind of want to. Everybody's a critic now, and everybody is a sports writer. Everybody's all these things, and so when some people come to you and ask certain questions, you kind of pick it up pretty easy on whether you even want to continue to talk to that person about it, or whether
Right.
you just want to give them the baseline staple
Right.
answers on everything.
Yeah. Tell me about a on court, off court balance, because when you're in college, you have to go to class and you've got to do all these things. But basketball, that's your job. So after you finish your job, you're a young guy, you still want to have that, live life to your earlier points. But at the same time, like that is also your livelihood. So tell me how you were able to balance that as a young guy. You're a vet now, but at that time it was probably like you said, you could be swayed at any moment because you were just so wide eyed with the whole thing.
Yeah, there's definitely I definitely had to find a balance, because you're just getting usually when you go somewhere you're trying to get in whatever, and then all of a sudden people know who you are and everybody wants you to come with them. You know what I
Right.
mean? That because you're in the city of Miami, you're hot, so like everybody want to have you at their table. Everybody want to get you those drinks. Everybody want to get you in their club or their section. So it's a very interesting trying to balance, like, hey, you know what, it is okay to have a little bit of to have a social life,
Sure.
um, with it actually taking a toll on your game.
Right.
uh, and for me it just took a little bit of time. It just took a little bit of time. When I first got in the league, if somebody was like, well, let's go out, Ty was gonna try and be there.
Right.
As I got older, and my son grew up, and I introduced another one into the family, and
Yeah.
priorities just started to shift. And so it
100%.
was, for me, it was a little bit easier. But if I'm single, there is nothing keeping you from stepping out or doing that.
Right.
So,
No doubt.
so I think for me it was just trying to grow up and become a better father, and be there for my kids. And I couldn't balance three things. Two is tough enough,
No
but
doubt.
adding being hungover or tired,
Yeah.
or whatever it may be, it doesn't mix.
Which makes it even more impressive that Jordan was able to burn the candle at both ends and still be able to be that dominant over a 15-year career, which is crazy.
Yeah, it's exceptional for sure.
Yeah. So tell me about you got a big contract, but there's a lot that comes with that, being a young guy. How many people were coming at you after you got that contract, and what was that like for you? Because you're a relatively low key, humble type of person, but I could just imagine just all these things coming at you. And I know that your family really helped you along during that time, but what was your mindset after all that? And by the way, it's really not that. It's really not what it was, because that's basically cut in half as soon as you give the government their portion. And it's a lot of times the NBA contracts are backlogged where you're not making that amount of money early on. So what was that like for you, and just how did you manage all that? Because I could just see it being so stressful.
Yeah, it is stressful. I was fortunate enough that I didn't mess with it. Like, I didn't mess with a lot of people before that happened. You know what
Right.
I mean? So then when people did start to come around, it was a little bit easier to identify what was what.
Yeah.
Um, but there definitely were some struggles, like you said. Like, 50 is not 50. It's I was in a tax-free state, so I got a little bit more off top.
Right.
But it's not 50. And when you see once I seen a couple bills, um, I still sometimes I look at some bills and I'm like, we paid for what? We just got what?
Yeah.
And it takes a good family dynamic to be able to everybody come under control. Luckily, we didn't come from money, you know, so um, it's not like we're trying to uphold certain habits. All the habits that maybe you accumulate from being bougie in the NBA, and being able to, at the drop of a whim, kind of do what you want to do. You're not having to go through those times of saving,
Right.
like you were before. Like, for example, when I was in college, I remember we saved $500 because we were gonna have the baby, and we had been putting away, and we had $500, and we were like, yo, that's
That's
good
it.
little
Like, yeah, we made
save.
it.
We got it. This is our savings, when like we're not touching it, like we're on our way to doing something really good. And I remember getting to 1,000 and thinking it was an infinite amount of money.
Right.
And I got my first per diem in summer league, and it was $1,000. And I was like, what? This is for the week? The week? What? I remember taking a picture. I spread out. It was like it was 9 bills. And I spread them
Wow.
out around my bed, and I took a
Yeah.
picture of it, thinking I like really did it. And
Yeah.
then yeah, and then fast forward, and you're making a little bit more money. I remember going through the contract, and my agent, we had agreed upon 4 years, 44, 4 years, 44, 4 years, 42.
Right.
Originally with Brooklyn, we talked to one other team at the very end, and they came in and offered 4 years, 60. And so I was like blown away. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? I'm like, at first we're thinking maybe we get 20, now it's 30, now it's 40, now it's 60. And I remember my agent still negotiating, like he's not phased by these numbers. He's like, oh yeah, I don't know, and blah, blah, blah.
You're
I
like,
still think
take
we can
that.
go. Yeah, I said take it at 20. I'm like, no, 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 no. I'm thinking for some reason I'm thinking they're gonna just be like, nope, and they're just gonna pull the offer off the table.
Sure.
But um, um, so then I remember we signed, and as soon as we agreed to the terms of 450, I remember like I instantly started to feel sick
Oh, I
uh,
can imagine.
in my stomach, and I went out the of my agent's office, and I started throwing up in the bathroom
Crazy.
because I like super overwhelmed, and
Right. Yeah. That's a lot of anxiety. Like,
I couldn't fully comprehend or even wrap my head around making a couple $1,000,000 a year, let alone 20. So it was interesting times.
unbelievable, but a lot of hard work and a lot of blood, sweat, and tears for sure that went into that. So definitely more than deserving. But we'd be remiss if we didn't talk about your family. Your mom is one of the most incredible people that I've ever met. I've never seen a person with so much energy and so much heart for other people. Like, I've been around her probably for the last 6, 7 summers, and she's always hosting. She's cooking for everybody. She's making sure that everybody's got their stuff. She's washing clothes for the AAU team. She's just an amazing person. But tell me about your relationship with her, because she's done a great job with all five of the Johnsons.
Yeah, she's a lot. She's a lot of things to me. She's obviously my mother, but she's also a great friend, somebody who I count on, just to be able to talk about life with.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, you got to keep up with the wave, otherwise you'll sink around her.
Oh yeah.
She's a fast moving person. Don't take a lot of shit.
None.
She just has a certain way of doing things, and you can either get on the wave or you can get ran over. And sometimes we butt heads, just being strong personality
Yeah.
individuals, but it's button heads out of love and progress, as opposed to like we're sitting here arguing over petty stuff.
Right.
And as I've gotten older, I've had so much more of an appreciation for that. You probably don't understand a lot of things when you're younger,
You
but now
don't.
I'm a father and I'm doing certain things, and I'm like, oh, I see,
Right.
kind of see why we couldn't do this, or why um, I wasn't allowed to be or do or act like this. Because it's easy to let certain habits build in a child, and then it's way harder to break them later down the road. So she did a great job of identifying those things, and 5 of her kids. I got 2, and I'm like pretty much at my wit's end on what I'm supposed to be doing. So
Right.
she luckily I have they have a strong mother, and then I have a strong mother as well, who kind of keeps things running.
No, she's a beautiful person inside and out, and yeah, and I think you guys are all super competitive, and I think you guys got that from her, because she is ready to destroy anything when it comes to competition. Um, so you think that's where you got it as well?
Yeah, she's like, it's weird. She loves to compete, but she's such a nurturer. She's like, she wants everybody to feel included and everything
Yeah.
like that. I think that more came from when my dad was around. That kind of that cutthroat, um, try and take your heart attitude,
Oh, for
uh,
sure.
is where that kind of came from. I'm a little bit more laid back, but when you ask like Logan, when you talk about how cutthroat that guy is and how much
Yeah.
he hates to lose and hates to, uh, you know, not see other people be successful, but when he does, it just turns him into like a different type of dog.
Right. Yeah.
And I think that's what the balance is. You get a lot of people who actually hate on other people's success.
Right.
They when someone else is doing good, um, they try and discredit it or cut it down, or whatever it is to try and boost themselves up to whatever because like you said, people are the star of their own show, so you
Right.
can tell whatever lie to yourself or whatever narrative you want to yourself.
Yeah.
Um, luckily I had a good example of to celebrate other people's success, and if that's something you do want, and then double down
Right.
and work even harder, because maybe it just wasn't your turn yet.
Right.
But some I remember my mom used to not let me be jealous of other people.
Right.
uh, it was always celebrate, let them have their time, that's their moment, just like you would want somebody to celebrate your successes and your moments. You're busy hating on other people. You're focused on, you've now taken your focus off the goal,
Right.
no longer on the goal. It's now focused on that individual person,
Yeah.
or your own jealousy. So um, yeah, those are just certain things that she's instilled in us growing up, and things that I can carry with me.
Yeah. So you're the second oldest, right? Brandon's the oldest.
Brand's oldest, yeah.
And so your younger siblings all followed you in playing basketball. Logan's at St. Mary's. Um, Lauren went to Chico State and played basketball there, and your youngest brother Gabe is hopefully going to play college basketball somewhere. I think he's a sophomore right now. But tell me about like just having a basketball family growing up, and what was it like at home? Playing with each other, and what were those games like you said, Logan is a complete dog as far as just being competitive and always probably wanting to beat you.
Yeah, you can't though. But that's the thing. You can't. He's not ready yet.
For
Still
sure.
puppy. And but I remember we actually played. I had my older brother here during quarantine,
Hmm.
and me, him, and Logan are playing ones, and within 5 minutes of the game, it was already barking back and forth. Um, and my older brother, he didn't play sports as he was growing up. He was just crazy athletic,
Yeah, that's what I heard. Yeah.
but he didn't actually play sports. But he can still kind of hold his own. But I remember he came back and he's like, "Why does it always have to turn into this? Why does it always have to be this?"
Yeah.
And like it's just funny when you kind of see different reactions to the same sort of stimulus, because me and Logan understand that when we get to barking is when we'll actually start trying to get something done.
Right.
It's kind of going through the motions until I start telling him he can't check me, and there's nothing he can do about it, and I'm just going to run off these spots. And that, I think that's what the difference is between certain types of people is. um, there's some people who back down from those types of things or get nervous or scared,
Right.
and there's some people who lock in and are able to zone in, and so yeah, that's what we're able to bring out of each other.
No, I love that mindset. Even just playing with your friends, it's like you might end up fighting, but at the end of the day, you got love for each other. And if somebody else were to try to do that same thing, you would definitely stick up for them. I know exactly how that goes. But tell me quickly about your high school career. Most people may not know, but if I'm not mistaken, you didn't start your senior year. You were like the sixth man, but you still got MVP of the league, right?
Yeah, I came off the bench. It was probably made into a bigger deal than it actually was,
Yeah. And
because
who
me
who, who made it? Who made it a big deal?
Just, anybody who had
Outside
anything to
people?
do, yeah, anything to do with the, team or writing about it,
Yeah.
whatever. Um, Me and Motilla actually had sat down before that season started, and he had asked if I would come off the bench. And, our reasoning behind doing that was because we did basically a line change in hockey. We would have 5 in and then we'd have 5 out, similar to how Kentucky was doing.
Yeah.
When they had, Book and Towns and all those, really, they were just kind of 5 in, 5 out.
Sure.
And so we would do that up until a certain point in the game. And so what we were trying to do is get certain guys in a rhythm in the first unit that may feel some type of way if they came off the bench. So we get them in a rhythm and get them going. I'll come in the second unit and I can lead maybe some guys that would have trouble playing with other guys on the team. And then,
The first group will come back in with you.
and then we get back into, nut crunching time towards the, third, fourth quarter. And we're not 5 in, 5 out anymore, but we have guys who are in rhythm.
Wow. I think about that concept, like, how did he approach you with that? Like, you're the best player on the team. You were the WCL player of the year that year. And like, how did he approach you?
He just said, "What do you think about this?" We were in his office and he was like, "What do you think about coming off the bench? So we can get some guys maybe going in the starting lineup." And I was totally okay with it. One, probably because I played with the same guys in AAU. So I kind of understood people's personality on how they approached it.
Wow.
And then two, I guess I just didn't care. Like, I enjoyed hooping. And so if you tell me I'm got to wait 5 minutes before I can, go hoop, and then I get to play a basketball game, it really makes no difference to me. I'm not going to take myself out of a game before it even starts.
Yeah.
And then I also sometimes needed a little bit of time before the game started to get my emotions in check, because I get very excited and hyped up and tense before a game, and when I come off the bench, it allows my adrenaline to calm down, everything to go back to like an even, feeling. And then when I come in, I feel like watching those first couple minutes and how the game is flowing, I get a better understanding.
Wow. What a selfless act, man. And it obviously ended up working out for the team and you. But that would be hard for a lot of people to do. And it takes a special person to be able to understand that. Tell me about your high school recruitment to college. Was there a lot of people interested? How did it come down to Fresno State? And yeah.
Coming out of high school, I started to get attention late.
Right.
Actually, excuse me, it wasn't that I got attention late. It was that I went into my last year of AAU, because you don't play as a senior. So I played that junior year, and that summer is when I started to get all my notice on where I was playing. And so I signed before the season, my senior year, to Fresno State.
Mm-hmm.
Everything in that summer kind of went a little bit crazy. I really wanted to go to St. Mary's.
Ironic.
Yeah, I really wanted to go to St. Mary's
Yeah.
coming out of high school.
And Bennett was still there, wasn't he?
Yeah, Bennett was.
Yeah.
We talk about it all the time.
That's crazy.
I was 165.
Yeah.
Like 6'2", little. Just not. I didn't look the part,
Right.
and so I think a lot of people passed up on that part of it. I originally was going to go to Utah State. That's where my mom wanted me to go.
Mm-hmm.
And then I had some good friends who were in Fresno, and I had a guy, Sinku Carey, who
Oh yeah, yeah.
has
He was.
set all the records at St. Francis, my high school,
Yeah,
and was actually, uh, Bink, Lejean's uncle.
yeah, yeah.
So he came. I remember he came into class. He came into my class, walked on campus. Everybody kind of was like, "Oh, that's Sinku Carey." Da, 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 da. Walked into my class. My teacher does the same thing, and he goes, "Ty, I need to talk to you for a minute." And he was, I go out there, and first thing he says is like, "Hey man, you want to go to the league?" I was like, "Yeah, of course I want to go to the league." Da, 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 da. It's like, "Well, then what are we waiting for?" And for some reason, it just kind of caught me up and swept me in the moment. I was like, "All right, I'm going to commit right now." So I committed right then, and then there was a kind of a big uproar about me backing away from Utah State uh, to go to Fresno, and obviously, Fresno's a lot different. Fresno and Logan, Utah, are two completely different places.
Right.
Um, and so obviously, I think my mom just wanted to make sure I was in a safe environment. She wanted me to be, uh, I don't know. She wanted me to be in a place where I was away from my friends and away from everything and starting over. And I don't know. I didn't want to leave. I didn't want to go too far, so I
Right.
ended up going to
Well,
Fresno.
Logan and Fresno, like you said, it's two different places. So, it ended up working out for you in the long run. Um, Tell me about some of your outside passions and, kind of what you like to do.
Man, right now it's just being a dad. I don't have. I think a lot of things outside of just getting myself back in shape for the after this virus, and then being a dad, have kind of just fallen by the wayside.
Right.
Kind of have a lot of We have a lot of magical ideas until something knocks you on your ass. So
Right.
this virus did, and it was more of one of those things where, man, when are you ever going to have this amount of time to get to know your significant other, or get to know your children, or get to know yourself?
Right.
Because sometimes, for me, I know I did it. I would distract myself with a whole bunch of different things, um, to kind of keep my mind moving and not sit still. Because when you sit still, it's when you start thinking about different things. And I realized that no matter where you run to, you're going to find yourself. So there was some things that I could do mentally to get a lot stronger. And
Right.
that's what I'm trying to do right now, doing this whole thing.
No, I can really tell, man. Just your whole demeanor and your whole approach. You just matured. I don't know when the last time I saw you was, but you're just so
Probably
much.
Vegas.
What's that?
probably with the team in Vegas with
I think it
with
was.
the younger guys.
Yeah. Speak about that because you didn't have to do that, but for people that don't know, you sponsored, uh, a top flight team, and we called it Tyler Johnson Elite. What was that experience for you? Number one, your younger brother was on the team the first year, and just being around that whole environment. Almost all those kids are playing in college right now, and then you did it one more year. Tell me about that experience because you gave back to the community. I know so many people were benefited because of your generosity.
Yeah, I mean, obviously I had my little brother in there, and probably two of them, two kids that I consider to be brothers,
Is that
with
Jake? Yeah,
Jake and Logan.
yeah.
Um, and they had been together. They had been together with you guys before. Um, and I don't know, I just kind of took a really strong interest in that team, particularly. And, being able to do that for my brother's team, and getting to watch him wear my name on the jersey, like,
Yeah,
definitely a point of like high pride in my life.
no
Um,
doubt.
and so, we put that team together, and they actually were really good. I think they were maybe a piece away, um, from winning a lot of those bigger tournaments,
Right.
because we were right there,
Yeah.
uh, to do a lot of things, and it was very gratifying for me.
The craziest part about that was all those kids were local kids, but playing on a national stage and against, top 100 kids. And none of our kids were ranked in the top 100, but, we go out there and give them work. And, it's just a credit to, all of them really, but really Logan and Jake were kind of the leaders. And then everybody, kind of hung with them because they were all friends. They grew up, like you said, playing together, and that means a lot when you're going against high level competition and just that chemistry. Um, right now, you're a free agent, so are you trying to get back into a situation where you could play in the league?
Yeah, absolutely. I was actually supposed to leave with the NBA got shut down on like a Friday,
Hmm.
and I was supposed to leave on a Sunday to go sign somewhere,
Oh wow.
um, and so I was in the middle of getting ready to do that, and then everything kind of shut down. So, um, like I said, I'm just making sure I stay in shape because if that opportunity comes knocking, I think being free agent and having to watch basketball games from home puts into perspective on is this still something you want to pursue? When
Right.
you get knocked down, is it something that is it something where you kind of want to cut and run and feel sorry for yourself and talk about who you were and what you have done?
Sure.
Um, or do you? For me, it's I want new memories. I want new things that I have the opportunity to talk about. I want to experience, had I stopped playing. I know that there's something out there that I haven't reached in my professional career
No
uh,
doubt.
that I'd never get to experience, had I stopped. So, I'm looking forward to getting myself 100% right, and like I said, making some new memories.
Cool. Just a couple more things. What do you want to do after you're done playing? Hopefully you have have some more years playing in the league. But if that doesn't come, what are you looking to do and accomplish in your life? Because like you said, there's so much time after. You're only 28 right now, 28, 29.
28.
So like that's, I mean, you're still super young, but what would you want to do after hoop?
You know what? I've been thinking about it, and I thought maybe I had a better understanding of what I wanted to do, and then once I got cut, I think just naturally the human emotion is to start thinking about a whole bunch of other things,
No
and
doubt.
I had no idea. I knew I wanted to raise, be there for my kids in a
Right.
way I hadn't been able to before, but probably coach, probably get into coaching. I know how big of an influence certain people played in my life, um, and I probably would want to be that for somebody else, or be there to just give whatever knowledge I've been able to obtain, um, because that's how the game of basketball progresses the way it does. Is you absorb as much information, and then you have people who are willing to share it.
Right.
Just like if we really look at it a certain way, like guys like D-Way, they didn't have to talk to me. They didn't have to pass the game along to me. They could have passed it along in their own way. I was
Right.
fortunate enough to soak up, the Udonis Haslam's, like their information,
Right.
soak up the information from Chris Bosh's and Pat Riley's and Spo's and all these guys. Um, so, if I keep that to myself, then I'm doing a disjustice and a disservice, to those guys coming up before me who could benefit off that information.
No doubt. Just you saying that reminds me of what Kobe was doing. And I know you got your Kobe sweatshirt on right now. Uh, like he was on that path, because he didn't really let too many people in when he was in the league. And I think he was doing a documentary on his last season, and just showing what the day to day is like for Kobe. I think this MJ thing, him just being so open and honest about who he was, it helped so many people like understand him better and just understand the game and the mentality that you have to have. As we close, what would be something that you would give to kids trying to pursue a career in basketball, whether that be playing college or if they're in college, wanting to pursue a career in the WNBA or NBA, what would be something that you would advise these kids to learn or do, or just anything that you can drop on them?
But just more than anything, be honest with yourself. Um, if you're not where you want to be, as far as your career goes, where your game is at, then you're not what you actually think you are. You know what I mean? When we were talking about it a little bit earlier, everybody, you ask any college player, they're NBA players. They're for
Yeah,
sure certified. I'm going to the league. It's not the case. It's just not the case. There's only been 5,000 ever.
crazy.
So it's not the case. And so if you want to be a part of something like that, that is, that exclusive or elite, then you have to be putting in work that is exclusive and elite. My team workouts aren't going to be enough.
Yeah,
My um, uh, lollygagging around, or maybe like even if I am in the gym, I don't have a specific idea of what I'm trying to do. I'm just in there, and I want to snap a picture, for the gram and talk about baller's life and all that. Like, that's cool if that's the direction you want to go in. Like, just be honest with yourself.
right,
That's okay. That's not a bad thing, but it's worse when you lie to yourself and you say, no, I want to be in the NBA, and then you don't put forward that same thing, because now you're lying to yourself and you're setting yourself up to do that later with other things.
right.
You know what I mean? So
Yeah,
however, I say it to my little brother all the time, like, don't tell me you want to be in the league, show me. I'll be right here to help with whatever I can, but I can only help. I'm not
right,
going to score baskets for you. I'm not going to be on the court with you. um, However you want to look at it. Just because I made it and I was don't get me wrong, I consider myself fortunate. I consider myself very fortunate to be to have done what I've done in my career. Nothing. I could have very easily not have made it.
right,
So you can't dictate. Like I tell him, you can't dictate being in the league just because I was there. Because it's all an even playing field.
sure,
It's all an even playing field. And we all have the same time throughout the day. So if you're lying to yourself and you're telling yourself, I'm going to be this or I'm going to be that, but you're not putting in that time and effort in order to get there, like I said, you're just setting yourself up for failure and frustration, probably more than anything.
right. And do you see that a lot with, you've come across a lot of players? Do they often play that blame game where it's like, oh, they're hating on me or whatever it may be? You see that quite often with players that don't really make it?
Because you have. You know what I mean? Like,
Well, I want you to say it.
of,
I know what
of,
I've seen.
of course I have, but you have. I'm
Yeah,
sure we all have. We've all come across people who, yeah, coach just won't let me play my game.
right,
Yeah, well, I've watched how you work. I've watched how you do this. So how I'm gonna give you something you haven't earned yet?
yeah,
Now, man, you had a good practice. Now all of a sudden you this or that.
lay
Nah,
down.
it's a day in, day out thing. I think the great thing about that Jordan doc was him talking about how he was in practice,
Right,
because everybody sees the GOAT. They see the shoes, they see the finals, the rings, and everything. None of that happens without that work ethic, and he goes back and attributes a lot of it to when he was in college and playing for Dean Smith and he was even willing to stay another year
right,
and learn more from that guy. Um, you can't, you're not going to get to where you want to get to simply by just thinking that it's going to happen.
right.
You know,
No, you really got to do things that other people aren't willing to do. And if you're not willing to do that, you're not going to be, you may make it in some doors, but you won't be successful long term. And to your earlier point about, you know, early in your career, that consistency. That's what everybody is looking for in every walk of life. Can you be a consistent father? Can you be a consistent, husband? Can you be a consistent basketball player, business owner, whatever it may be? For a lot of people, they can't remain consistent, and that's why they fall short. And the people that do, you see, they're greats in whatever their field is. So you're an absolute great, a bucket filler in a lot of categories, man. I'm so proud of you and happy for all the success that you've had. Little Damien in the picture. What's up, Damien?
Hi.
So I appreciate you, brother, for coming on. Thank you for sharing your time. Stay healthy. Get back to 100%. I'm looking forward to watching you play again for somebody in the NBA.
For sure. Appreciate you, my brother.
All right. We'll talk soon.
Thank you for listening to the Beyond the Buckets podcast. Please remember to subscribe, rate, and share the show with your friends. And until next time, take care.